And now to a Wion special interview. You may wonder who is Juan Carlos Varela Rodriguez and why is Wion talking to him. Varela Rodriguez is the president of Panama. It's a tiny country sandwiched between Costa Rica and Colombia in South America and is most famous for the Panama Canal linking the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. To India, Panama is home to Mossack Fonseca, the law firm which set up 200,000 shell companies to help wealthy individuals avoid paying tax, including many Indians. Our correspondent Daniele Pagani interviewed President Rodriguez. Take a listen into that exclusive conversation.
It is an honor and a pleasure to introduce our guest with us today, a president of a country which, despite being tiny in size, is one of the most relevant economies in the world, the president of Panama.
When the scandal surrounding the operations of the Panama-based Mossack Fonseca law firm hit the headlines, President Juan Carlos Varela Rodriguez of Panama came out swinging in defense of his country. His point was that Mossack Fonseca setting up shell companies to help wealthy individuals avoid paying tax was not a problem for Panama alone. It involved many other countries, and investigations should reflect that. Was he successful in salvaging Panama's reputation? Not quite. Panama was put on the European Union's tax blacklist. In India, 424 Indians were found to have links with Mossack Fonseca. Of them, 205 had links to offshore entities named in the Panama Papers. 60 other Indians remained untraced, even as investigations plod on. Did the scandal shake India-Panama relations? Given the levels of trade are low and Panama does not figure as a heavyweight on the American continent, perhaps no. But Panama was the first Latin American country where India set up an embassy. There are around 15,000 Indians here. The Indian IT has roots here, and Indians are also in the diamond trade. Some of Varela's other actions have raised eyebrows in New Delhi, such as, for instance, his decision last year to adhere to the One China policy. It flowed from the fact that China is the second largest user of the Panama Canal, so it made good business sense. Xi Jinping called him a hero and welcomed him in Beijing with full honors. It underscored Beijing's long-term plans for Panama, positioned very close to the North American market. But President Varela is not just a career politician. He comes from one of Panama's richest families and served on the board of the family's liquor business. He's been president since 2014, was vice president before that, and also held the post of foreign minister. Panama is acknowledged to be among the fastest growing economies in the world.
Mr. Varela, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Global is One Leadership. We are meeting on the sides of a global summit in defense of human rights, so I want to start from there. What is the role that Panama has in defending human rights and fighting against those who violate human rights?
Panama is a country committed to defend and promote human rights. We have the vice presidency and we were the country most voted to have that position in the United Nations Human Rights Committee. We also have a woman, Panamanian woman, that is a member of the Commission, Inter-American Commission for Human Rights. We're an advocate. Personally, I'm an advocate for human rights. During my 45 months as president of Panama, we have never used force in any social situation with our people. Always promote dialogue, tolerance. So it's a country that have respect human rights, protect its own people, and also the most important human right, the right to live. So we are always asking political leaders to take decisions that promote human rights and don't put people in danger because of decisions taken by some leaders. And also this conference here in Amman is very important because it's about children, the human right of children on the move. Especially this morning was very, very sad for me because a year and a half girl died in my country, not in my country, trying to cross from Colombia to Panama by boat, by being handled by human traffickers, and we fight against that. And the boat had some problems, and then this little girl died. So we're always defending the human rights of immigrants, of children on the move, and especially of our own citizens, and we fight for that worldwide, everywhere we go.
And this, Mr. President, leads me into my following question, which is, you have a privileged point of view being in the Central and Southern American region. What are the most common human rights violations you're facing there, and what needs to be done in order to fight and stop them?
Especially children, and also in some areas where the young people live like at risk. They are threatened by the violence, by organized crime. Also, the young people from the region, especially from Central America, they have to migrate looking for a better future. Sometimes their rights are not respected. Especially the immigrants crossing through our area, we have to allow them to cross. We have to be able to protect them. We cannot let them be human traffickers to use them. So any immigrant that comes to our country from the border with Colombia, we will protect them and take it to the next border. They are in our continent. Sometimes they come from Nepal, Bangladesh, and there's young kids looking for a better future. So we have to protect them. So I would say that not allowing the flow of immigration to go is something that has to be taken care of. And also in some countries, especially in the jails, they have to improve what they're doing with them. But in our country, I would say that we don't have any issues. Thanks, God.
We seem to live in a moment in the world where international bodies, I'm thinking about the United Nations, the UN Security Council, kind of struggle to implement their resolutions. I'm thinking about the failed ceasefire, the difficult peace process in Syria. Mr. President, what can be done in order to empower these agencies to get, especially state actors, to respect human rights?
We need more commitment from the leaders of the big countries so they can put their differences aside and find solutions to the problems that are affecting the people, like the conflict in Syria. Sometimes because of their competing or these other issues of then they put aside the main problem, which is protecting human life and the human rights of people. So I would say that we need more commitment from world leaders so they can compromise to execute what is needed to protect the life of people that is at risk in different areas of the war.
And do you think that countries like Panama, for instance, and India, speaking from an Indian perspective, who are perceived as neutral many times, especially in this region, can cooperate and find synergies, among many other countries, obviously, to get this commitment done? For
sure, we can address this issue of how we can stop this conflict, because at some point, all these big countries, they need us, even though we're a neutral country, but they need us for some different purposes. So we need to put this objective of stopping all these conflicts as part of our agenda of foreign affairs policies. So that's very important for me, because at the end I went to Setari camp today here in Jordan. Everybody wants to go back to their country. So we have refugees because we don't solve the conflicts. We have to solve the conflicts. If we solve the conflict, then we won't have refugees. In our region, then we have a situation with Venezuela now, that there's many people leaving the country because of the political situation. It started as a political crisis, then economic crisis, now humanitarian crisis. So we have to solve this problem so we don't have people leaving or fleeing our countries.
What instruments do we have to bring back dialogue? Because at the end of the day, ending a conflict is largely based on dialogue between the parties. It seems everyone is deaf in this world sometimes.
We have to strengthen the capacities of the multilateral effort that is done. And also, when a decision is taken, make sure that it's respected by everybody. Because, as you mentioned, if you write a statement or you make a decision, an announcement, and then nobody pays attention to it, then we start weakening the system.
And Mr. President, talking a little bit about the relations between Panama and India, you haven't been there yet. I'm sure the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be happy to welcome you. Do you plan to go? And what kind of areas of cooperation do you see between Panama and India?
I'm receiving a new ambassador from India to Panama this week. Once I'm back in Panama, the Vice President of India is coming to Panama too. I plan to make an official visit, coordinated with the government, and we're going to strengthen our embassies, and we're also now starting to eliminate or to change the visas that are restricted today to stamped visas issued in our consular offices in New Delhi and Mumbai. So after supporting the One China policy, our next steps will be to getting closer to India too, and try to get closer to the Middle East, India, and Southeast Asia also. So we see India as a potential partner of our country in the near future.
China wouldn't be a problem in that.
No, it's part of all this effort of trying to diversify of foreign policy.
And of course, I now have the fortune of having you a global leader here. So I know you speak for your country, but in India we are very interested about how is the relation between Panama and the U.S. after Donald Trump election. Your privileged view will help us to understand how to manage such a president.
It's a stable relationship because our institutions were very close, our law enforcement agencies. The different institutions they've been there for many years. We have very strong relationship with the United States. We're regional partners, very strong allies. So if we disagree on some issues, then that is always the big picture is above that. So I feel that we made our case. We have a very dialogue, honest and direct dialogue, and we're going to the Summit of the Americas in Lima 2 weeks from now, and at the summit we'll have the opportunity to express our view of different issues, but we have a very good coordination with them in different areas: foreign investment, regional security, the fight against organized crime, immigration, and even if we can disagree with some policies, at the end we coordinate and we do our best effort to keep a strong relationship.
And talking about, you said commitment is necessary in order to force, so to say, global leaders to respect human rights and fight their violations. We are now in West Asia. This is how we call this area from India, a turbulent region with many refugees. What can be your commitment in this region in order to help refugees?
The best for me will be to bring the regions together. We have to send a message to Latin America that Islam is about peace, that Islam is about faith. Islam doesn't have anything to do with these activities that were conducted by ISIS and other terrorist groups. And because sometimes people get scared when they see somebody from this region coming to Latin America, and we have to change that. I used to visit Dubai 1 month ago, and I saw 500,000 Pakistanis working there in the hotels everywhere. You know, when sometimes somebody from this region crossed to America, people feel that they could represent some kind of threat. So changing that mind will be very important for me. So using Panama and Jordan and the Emirates to bring both regions together to promote tolerance, dialogue, interfaith dialogue is very important for me. So I think that we can play a very important role of bringing these regions together. And at some point, the war is going to end. Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, at some point it's going to end. So there will be better time for this region, and we have to use that time and that opportunity to bring those regions together and bring the faith, the religion, the races, everybody together, fighting for a better war.
Do you think Jordan can be, which as we said is doing an amazing job when it comes to welcoming refugees, can be taken as an example of how to manage this crisis?
Not just the refugee crisis, the leadership of King Abdallah, the Jordanian government and the Jordanian people is amazing. How can they receive the refugees, not just from Syria now, but from Palestine, from Iraq, from different countries, and they can allow them to live a decent life in this country. And also how we see King Abdallah being able to talk to different religious leaders, political leaders. He can talk to all the head of states with a lot of respect. So that's very important. That's the reason why we're bringing closer ties with Jordan, because we see his leadership as very important of being able to achieve our objective of bringing our regions together.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We definitely wait you in India. You'll be most welcome.
Looking forward for that visit, and I know that the relationship between Panama and India are going to strengthen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.